Welcome to day 43 of the Sacred Pause. Thank you to our dear sister Mary for her meditation last night. In times like this, it is beautiful to be taken to a place of divine ecstasy. Thank you, Mary, for your wisdom and your guidance through these challenging times. I'd like to thank you all, in fact, for your amazing support over the last 43 days. In just 6 weeks, we've gone from a group of strangers to 145 incredibly engaged and enlightened souls, and a true global community. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's an honor to walk among you. Now, yesterday we spoke about how unstoppable you all are if you are willing to take away your boundaries of limitation and step into your power story. Today I wanted to focus on where we lost our belief in our unstoppability, how we can help other people rediscover theirs, and how you, in your infinite wisdom, can help our children and their children become unstoppable by creating a legacy for future generations. Let me tell you a story about a little girl who was drawing a picture in an art lesson. She never paid much attention in any of her classes, but when she was asked to draw, she was totally focused. One day, her teacher said to her, "Sophie, what are you drawing?" Sophie turned round and said, "Well, miss, I'm drawing a picture of God." And the teacher said, "But Sophie, nobody knows what God looks like." Sophie looked at her and said, "Well, they will in a minute." Isn't that beautiful? Extraordinary. Because what I love about kids is they're born with an extraordinary talent and a willingness to take on anything. No project too big. They're prepared to take risks, be creative. They don't care if they're wrong because they want to do something unique, something they can take home to their mummy or daddy or grandma or granddad and say, "I did this for you." Sadly, our education system right now is full of rules which tell us that one thing is right and another thing is wrong. But if you look at the really great people on this earth, and often the really happy people too, they are the ones who always are prepared to be wrong. Because that is the only way you can ever come up with something original. Our system right now is designed to get you through the system, to make the school look good, rather than making you express yourself and show off your uniqueness. The children who start school this year will be retiring in the year 2080. Now, nobody has a clue what the world will look like in 3 years' time, never mind in 2080. But I would imagine that long before then, robots will be able to do most of the jobs our current education system is preparing us for. Perhaps the only area that robots will never master is pure creativity, born from the human heart, born from our souls, from a place of infinite creativity. A piece of extraordinary art or music, a majestic dance, An inspiring sculpture which lives in your house, which makes you smile each morning when you look at it. The design of a building or a landscape that lets your heart bound with joy, leap to new heights every time you see it. You see, an act of unique creativity is often the thing which brings more light into people's lives than anything else. And incredibly, our system tries to coach this out of us. Is it any wonder that mental health problems are at an all-time high? Now, the other thing our education system does not take into account is that the latest generation of children are born of a far higher consciousness. They have extraordinary capacities for innovation. They've been called the crystal, indigo, and starseed generation, and many of them display characteristics that push the boundaries of what was assumed to be our reality in order to bring our world into a new state of consciousness. This generation have a natural affinity with the earth. They adore nature. And yet they're forced to spend so much time sitting in a classroom, staring at a teacher or a whiteboard. As parents and grandparents and uncles and aunties, we have the perfect opportunity to lead by example, to give our children, our nieces, nephews, grandchildren, a paintbrush and a blank page. To buy them a guitar, but not to push them to play a song which has already been written. They can write a song of their own. Let's teach our children to talk and write, but let them pen their own poetry. Let them be aware of their infinite possibilities so they can step into a destiny. So they can learn to love our planet, so they can live in harmony with the earth. While our consciousness has been upgraded, our education system has become outdated. And these extraordinary capacities for innovation and creativity are often lost in the mist of passing multiple choice examinations. Perhaps the major flaw is the system still focuses largely on thinking and memorizing very specific linear subject matters, rather than embracing the big picture concepts which allow the child to deal with real life scenarios, become creative and prepare themselves for the defining moments in their human life. There's a million and one ways of allowing kids to be creative. But we also need to consider how we can prepare our children for life, for love, for sickness, and for death. The one thing that's sure in our life is that we will die. And yet nobody teaches us how to deal with the emotions, how to embrace the spirituality within death. As a child, my biggest challenges were my parents' divorce. Trying to work out why different people followed different gods. Watching my relatives die, but not knowing where they were going. The fear of my own death. What would become of me? Would it hurt? Dealing with the negative voices in my own head. Trying to understand other people. Falling in love, but not really knowing how to express my emotions. I would have done anything to learn about meditation, yoga, or for a forum like the Sacred Pause to help me answer the big questions in life. Did school prepare me for any of this? No. Now I'm spiritual rather than religious, but I was shocked when, as a parent of 2 little girls, I inducted my children to school in France and discovered the system has completely removed any talk of religion from their classes. Instead of teaching them about all the religions and giving them a balance, so they could understand the other children. They've decided in France to deny their existence. And this is a country which used to pride itself on its Catholic heritage. I admit, as a child I found religious education boring. But that was partly down to the teaching, and also partly down to my own concentration levels, which would have been much better if I'd been meditating. But what religious studies did do for me was they gave me hope. They gave me inspiration. And no matter how boring the classes were, when we heard stories from the Bible or we prayed as a group, I always found it incredibly powerful. Now my 6-year-old daughter is already having panic attacks about going back to school following COVID-19. We tried to make her avoid the news, but inevitably she's heard stories of people dying, and she's wondering what's going on. She's been forced to wash her hands constantly because of something negative that might happen, and she's living in great fear because of that. My brothers and sisters, in a time when the two major issues in our world are mental health and climate change, we must start teaching people mindfulness, training the soul doctors of tomorrow, and making sure that the next generation build a beautiful relationship with Pachamama, with our dear earth. Our future generations need to understand that heaven is under our feet, and we cannot afford to let them think that it is over their heads. My beautiful people, we need to understand it is our role as the wisdom keepers and the soul doctors of Mother Earth, that we must also become the wisdom sharers and the educators of this new world which right now is being dreamed into being, but not many people are understanding. Tonight, the inspiring Ian Gray will be purifying our vibrations and expanding our access to our intuition and our heart's intentions with a beautiful meditation all the way from Costa Rica. Thank you, Ian. Before you begin, please open sacred space and send healing to the 7 chakras of the earth, from Mount Shasta to Lake Titicaca, to Uluru and Glastonbury, to the Mount of Olives, and to Mount Kailash in Tibet. Please also send great healing to the health workers and carers who continue their formidable work across our dear planet. Please also send healing to the Brown family who need our love right now. They are in Italy. To our sister Pearl Reich, and to all the souls we have lost within the sacred pause during the last 6 weeks. Please also send great healing to Rosemary, mother of our dear sister Luna Karen, and to Mira, who needs our love right now. Finally, please send love to Connie Bowen on behalf of our dear sister Rosemary. Connie begins her chemo today. And to anyone else whose names are brought through the forum in the next few hours. The revolution has begun. Let's evolve with honor and compassion. Yours, in peace and love, Peter. Namaste.